The history of war, if you go back and look at almost every war that the United States has fought in, it has entailed erosions of civil liberties, and it's not hard to understand why. The nature of getting the United States and its population to agree to involve itself in a new war is a claim that we are under threat, that we face some grave danger. You have to put the population in fear of something in order to get them to agree to support a new war. And once the population is in fear as a result of a new war, the population wants to be protected. That's just a natural human instinct. And once you convince the population that they have something to fear and are in need of protection, they will naturally not just be willing to give up a lot of rights, invest more power in the state, but be eager to do so. They'll demand that the state seize more power in order to do things that previously it could never do. And that's exactly what's happening now. That happened with every crisis we've had over the past 7 years, whether it be COVID or the war in Ukraine or January 6th. All of that ushered in new forms of internet control and censorship, as we've been over many times before. That is certainly happening true now with this new war between Israel and Gaza that the United States has been involved in. We've covered on our show many times before the fact that it has led to all new censorship all throughout the West, but here at home as well. We've had all kinds of firings of people who are dissidents to the war. And now what we have is the Democratic governor of New York seizing on these new fears, specifically the fears of anti-Semitism that we're told that all American Jews must quiver in the face of. American Jews can't leave their homes. Their children in college can't leave their dorm rooms. Just the country has become unsafe for American Jews at the narrative. And as a result, Kathy Hochul sees this fearmongering going on. And she's decided, oh, here's an opportunity for me to grab more power. Specifically the power to surveil the internet, a power I've been wanting to get for myself for many years and haven't been able to. But now that the country is in fear, I'm able to get it. So she announced today, and I don't know if we have the video ready or not, or any of our videos. Yes, we do. So that's good. So Kathy Hochul today gave a speech in which she explained why Americans need to be in fear and why it is that we need her to save us from these new dangers, and what she intends to do and what power she intends to claim and is claiming in the name of keeping us all safe. Let's listen to our new protector, Kathy Hochul, the Democratic governor of New York, as she explains the new power she will have over the internet.
Good morning. We have determined that the rising level of hate and anti-Semitism in particular poses a clear and present danger to the safety and well-being of all New Yorkers. And I, as governor, am doing everything in my power to fight back. I just convened an emergency meeting with Jewish leaders and law enforcement to discuss strategies. I had the New York State Police Office of Counterterrorism, the MTA Police, the Division of Homeland Security and Emergency Services, federal law enforcement, including the ATF, as well as religious leaders from various organizations in different parts of the state, and clergy as well. Here's what I share with them. The day that Hamas attacked Israel, October 7th, and the rise in hate crimes began instantaneously, I immediately deployed the state police to be on high alert to protect vulnerable assets. We've had regular disruptions now in our transit terminals, including a major incident at Grand Central over the weekend. And as we
all right, let me just stop there. So we've had a major incident, a major security incident at Grand Central. What was that? Was it like a terrorist attack? Did Hamas come and blow up a train? Did Hezbollah come and start shooting up a car and trying to kill Jews? No, that's not what she means. This devastating, threatening incident in Grand Central Station. You know what it is that she's referring to? She's referring to this: a protest against the war in Israel that the United States and the Biden administration are supporting by a group of Jewish activists who are opposed to the war in Israel. They're from CBS New York, October 28, 2023. Over 200 arrested at Grand Central Terminal during rally for ceasefire in Gaza. Quote, hundreds of demonstrators took over Grand Central Terminal on Friday calling for a ceasefire in the Israel-Hamas war. More than 200 were arrested, hundreds of demonstrators from a Jewish activist group. made their way into Grand Central Terminal's main concourse and staged a sit-in during rush hour. The group, Jewish Voice for Peace, which is not a designated terrorist group, has no history of engaging in violence, demanded a ceasefire in Gaza on a day Israeli military forces increased incursions. Quote, right now you are hearing thousands of Jewish New Yorkers who are raising our voices so clear that our safety can never come at the expense of another community's safety. Jewish Voice for Peace spokesperson Jay Sapper said. Now, isn't it amazing that when trying to convince Americans and New Yorkers that Jews are in such danger that we need Kathy Hochul to engage in all kinds of special new security measures, including censoring and monitoring the internet, that she pretended she was referencing some major security event at Grand Central Station when in fact it was nothing other than Jewish residents of New York exercising their core constitutional right to protest their government's war policy. It wasn't an attack by Hamas or by Hezbollah in Grand Central Station. But she tried to make it seem that's what she's reaching for. She needs, in order to convince you to be happy with this, to acquiesce to it, she needs to scare you. She needs to say there's been major security incidents all over New York ever since October 7th. And the only thing she can cite of any significance is a protest that happened in Grand Central Station that was carried out by Jewish students, though she, of course, didn't tell you that, who are peaceful, who are not terrorists, who engage in no violence and attack nobody. Let's listen to the rest of how she's going to save us from these marauding hordes of Jewish peace activists.
Including a major incident at Grand Central over the weekend. And as we
A major incident at Grand Central.
approach some of the busiest travel days of the year, heading into Thanksgiving, I want to make sure, as I spoke to these leaders in law enforcement, that they have a plan to ensure that our commuters will be able to go about their lives freely without disruption. Also, we're very focused on the data we're collecting from surveillance efforts.
We're very focused on the data that we're collecting from surveillance efforts. Obviously, I became better known as a journalist as a result of the work I did in 2013 with my source, Edward Snowden, when he came forward and enabled us, myself and the documentarian Laura Poitras and the media outlets with whom we worked, to report that the NSA, in the name of that war and the fear that it ushered in, the war on terror, led to a massive new warrantless domestic indiscriminate spying program against the American citizenry. It's the same dynamic here. I know from people in my life that there really are Jews, American Jews, who have been convinced that they can't leave their house safely. The media is very powerful. Activists or groups are very powerful. If you keep telling a group of people you are in danger, there are mobs, violent hate mobs, roving around in the street ready to murder you because of who you are. People are going to get scared, and they have gotten scared. But this is the result of that kind of fear-mongering. We had Bata Ungar-Sargon on our show last week. She's a very stalwart Israel supporter, an American Jewish woman. And one of the things I most appreciated about that interview, I pretty much loved the whole interview because it was a great exchange of ideas between she and I, even though we vehemently disagree on the broader Israel-Palestine conflict, the role of the U.S. in this war and what it should be. But the one thing she said was, look, I've been somebody who's been mocking woke fear-mongering, trying to convince American black people, LGBTs in the United States that they're endangered in the United States, that the United States is a hateful country. There's hate mobs everywhere ready to kill them, spreading neurosis and fear and paranoia and hatred for the United States, trying to get people to think that they can't safely exist in the United States. The NAACP issued a travel advisory for black people when they want to go to Florida. So did LGBT groups. And obviously, when you do that, you spread paranoia and fear. And she said, this is enough. American Jews are safe in America. But the result of this fear-mongering is that Kathy Hochul gets to say things like, we're increasing our surveillance power. We're very focused on the domestic data that we're collecting.
efforts, what's being said on social media platforms. And we have launched an effort to be able to counter some of the negativity and reach out to people when we see hate speech being spoken about on online platforms.
Now, she's not the most articulate politician ever, but I want to just replay what she said about what exactly is this new this new surveillance program that she's launching in the name of this fear that has been deliberately disseminated and cultivated among American Jews.
Also, we're very focused on the data we're collecting from surveillance efforts, what's being said on social media platforms. And we have launched an effort to be able to counter some of the negativity and reach out to people when we see hate speech being spoken about on online platforms. Our media analysis, our social media analysis unit has ramped up its monitoring of sites to catch incitement to violence, direct threats to others. And all of this is in response to our desire, our strong commitment to ensure that not only do New Yorkers be safe, but they also feel safe. Because personal security is about everything for them. As I said, no one walking down the street or in a subway.
Do you see what this has led to? Do you see what this is leading to? This incessant drumbeat that because Hamas attacked Israel on the other side of the world, now American Jews are unsafe in the United States. Of course, people are going to now want the government to engage in domestic surveillance of their fellow citizens. They're going to want more monitoring of social media, and she's stepping into that breach. Now, as I said, this is something she's wanted for a long time. Here from March of 2022. So almost 18 months ago, The Intercept reports Kathy Hochul is ready to spend millions on new police surveillance. New York State legislators have just days to question phone hacking, forensics, and fusion centers before the budget passes. In January, when New York City Mayor Eric Adams released his highly publicized inaugural blueprint to combat gun violence, it set the stage for political commotion. His plans for ramped up policing, including new gun detection technology, increased patrols, and the redeployment of a notorious plainclothes unit, have drawn condemnation from advocates and activists and praise from mainstream pundits, fueling the ongoing debate over cops' roles in our communities. Around the same time Adams released his plan, New York's Governor Kathy Hochul unveiled details of her own policing initiative to crack down on gun crime, but hardly anyone seemed to notice. Embedded within the dozen bills and hundreds of line items that make up her plan for next year's state budget, Hochul's administration has proposed tens of millions of dollars in several new initiatives to expand state policing and investigative power, including agencies' ability to surveil New Yorkers and gather intelligence on people not yet suspected of breaking the law. Among Hochul's proposals are a new statewide system of police intelligence gathering centers, which would engage in mass surveillance, and whose model hinges on the use of unproven forensic science. Other proposals, funds for new law enforcement social media surveillance personnel, the expansion of existing police intelligence gathering and sharing efforts, and most likely technology that downloads the full contents of people's cell phones on tops of millions of dollars for more street policing. Now, even if you're not with me on this warning that this is being exaggerated to scare the domestic population into believing that they can't safely go outside and therefore need the government's protection, do you see what it's leading to? Do you trust the New York governor or the governor of any state to have the power to surveil the domestic population, including people who aren't suspected of committing any crimes, in order to detect who is posting what they regard as hateful content online, and then having the power to counteract it using a police force called the Social Media Domestic Surveillance Unit? Because that's what is being done in the name of this narrative. Thanks for watching this clip from System Update, our live show that airs every Monday through Friday at 7 p.m. Eastern, exclusively on Rumble. You can catch the full nightly shows live or view the backlog of episodes for free on our Rumble page. You can also find full episodes the morning after they air across all major podcasting platforms, including Spotify and Apple. All the information you need is linked below. We hope to see you there.